For most of human history, we thought we understood how the universe worked. Space seemed to follow simple, predictable rules. Comets, for example, would glide through the void, glowing with a soft blue-green haze, the result of sunlight striking carbon molecules and causing them to shine. Asteroids were even quieter, drifting endlessly as silent gray stones, relics from the dawn of the solar system. Stars pulse gently in the night, their rhythm steady, and their colors revealing their temperature, age, and life cycle. Everything followed a pattern, like an ancient symphony written into the fabric of the cosmos. For centuries, astronomers trusted this cosmic order. The universe was vast and mysterious, but it was also consistent, a grand, harmonious song that never missed a note. And then, one night, the song changed. A strange visitor called 3E Atlas, once dismissed as nothing more than an unusual but ordinary object, did something no one expected. Scientists, armed with some of the most advanced instruments humanity has ever built, Hubble, Kepler, Spitzer, and above all, the James Webb Space Telescope turned their attention to it. What they saw defied everything they thought they knew. The bright tail and halo of the object, which should have shone in the familiar bluish-green light of a comet, began to shift. It transformed into a brilliant pulsing red, a shade far too intense, too vibrant to belong in the freezing emptiness of space. To the untrained eye, it might have seemed like nothing more than a curious celestial spectacle, another strange object passing through the night sky. But to scientists, that color was a message, a deeply unsettling one. Natural objects don't emit such precise uniform light. It wasn't sunlight reflecting off frozen gases or rocky dust. It was light being generated. 3A Atlas wasn't illuminated by the sun's rays. It was radiating energy by itself. In that moment, the line between natural and artificial blurred. What had once been a comet was now something else entirely. Something born of nature had been reshaped into something that felt deliberate, intentional, a question written across the cosmos by a hand no one could see. And with that question came an unsettling realization. This wasn't just a discovery, it was an activation. The object had changed not only in appearance, but in essence, as though it had been switched on. When astronomers first detected 3E Atlas, it seemed like the sort of object that excites the scientific world. A tiny, dim blur racing through space at over 100,000 miles per hour, gradually brightening as it drew closer to the sun. But as it evolved before their eyes, it became clear that this was no ordinary cometary visitor. It was something new, something we had never seen before. And in its crimson glow, the universe's once familiar song began to sound strange and unfamiliar, as though a new verse, written by something beyond our understanding, had just begun. Scientists were overjoyed when the discovery was confirmed. This was not just another space rock wandering through our solar system. It was only the third object ever observed coming from beyond our own star system, following the historic detections of Oumuamua and Borisov. For astronomers, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a chance to study a true interstellar traveler, a fragment from a distant sun that had journeyed for perhaps millions of years across unimaginable stretches of space. They could examine its makeup, learn how it formed, and maybe even uncover new insights into the birth and death of other star systems. At first, everything about the object, now known as 3E Atlas, seemed ordinary, almost comfortingly so. It behaved just like a typical comet. It brightened as it approached the sun, released dust and gas, and followed the expected pattern scientists had seen hundreds of times before. Each new observation made researchers more excited, as if the universe itself were offering up a pristine relic from another world for them to study. But then, without warning, the data began to change in ways no one could explain. The first clue came from NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope, which uses infrared light to measure heat. It detected a dramatic spike in temperature deep within the comet's core. Far more heat than could be accounted for by the usual process of frozen gases vaporizing in sunlight. That anomaly was strange enough on its own, but what came next pushed the situation far beyond anything in the textbooks. The James Webb Space Telescope soon reported something even more puzzling. The comet's familiar greenish halo, caused by sunlight hitting carbon and other molecules, faded away, replaced by a deep, vivid red glow. And this wasn't just a color shift. The light was pulsing. It brightened and dimmed rhythmically, precisely once every 84.6 seconds. The signal was so regular, so controlled, that it felt alive. Other observatories, Hubble, and even the retired Kepler telescope were quickly aimed at the object to confirm what Webb had seen. They all reported the same impossible truth. The red light was real, and it beat like a steady, mechanical heartbeat. Comets, of course, are supposed to be nothing more than ice, dust, and rock. Ancient frozen leftovers from the formation of a solar system. But this was something else entirely. It was as if a machine had been wrapped in a cloak of dust and ice, silently waiting for its moment to awaken. All along, scientists believed they were watching a natural object. Now it looked like the universe had been hiding something in plain sight, and the disguise had finally slipped away. In the world of astronomy, light that flashes with a regular beat is not taken lightly. Nature tends to be chaotic and unpredictable, but a repeating signal hints at intent, and possibly intelligence. The steady rhythm from 3i Atlas instantly drew the attention of not just astronomers, but mathematicians, cryptographers, and codebreakers. Specialists who usually focused on deciphering encrypted human communications turned their attention to the sky, trying to understand this alien pulse. Even the National Security Agency became involved, its top analysts poring over the data as if it were an intercepted message. What they found only deepened the mystery. Each red pulse wasn't a simple blink. It contained an intricate tapestry of tiny variations in brightness, patterns too precise and too fast to occur naturally. These subtle modulations looked like tightly packed data packets, each one potentially containing vast amounts of information. The analogy scientists used was startling. It was as if an entire library had been hidden inside a single word, or a whole novel compressed into every letter of a page. Whatever the signal was, it was far more than a simple beacon. And yet, even with the world's best minds working around the clock, the signal refused to yield its secrets. It wasn't written in mathematics or computer code as humans understood them. It seemed to be built upon principles of physics that humanity had barely begun to explore. A language of the universe itself, spoken in a dialect no one on Earth had ever heard before. As leading codebreakers worked to make sense of the mysterious signals, new radar readings made the situation even more unsettling. At times, the 3i Atlas objects seemed to vanish entirely, absorbing radar waves and becoming invisible to detection systems. At other moments, they did the opposite, reflecting signals back with an intensity far beyond anything that could occur naturally, as if they were deliberately manipulating the technology observing them. Their heat signature was just as baffling. The exterior radiated an intense burning red energy, yet deep inside, the core remained incredibly cold, close to absolute zero. It was like looking at a fire that was frozen in its center, a contradiction that defied the known laws of physics. For a time, Project Icarus, the secret program tasked with monitoring the phenomenon, could do nothing but watch and wait for the next anomaly. And it came. As the 3 Atlas objects neared Mars, scientists expected their trajectory to shift slightly under the influence of the planet's gravity, a basic and unavoidable consequence of mass-bending space-time. But nothing happened. The objects passed Mars as if its gravitational pull didn't exist at all. For researchers who had trusted Einstein's equations for over a century, this was a staggering discovery. Gravity affects everything, yet this did not seem to apply. Whatever these objects were, they weren't just chunks of rock or frozen comets. They were being guided, controlled by something with the power to resist gravity itself, a feat far beyond even humanity's most advanced rockets. Compared to that, 3 Atlas seemed like a ghost passing through barriers that didn't exist for it. At that point, the mood within Project Icarus shifted from cautious curiosity to a quiet, unsettling fear. Anything capable of ignoring gravity wasn't just strange, it was unstoppable. It could move anywhere, do anything, and nothing in our current technology could hope to contain or slow it down. The mystery was no longer about what it was made of or how it functioned. The real question became why it was here and whether there was anything we could do if it decided to act. As more data arrived, that question grew heavier. Not what is it or how does it work, but what does it want? The object's pulsing red glow, bright and almost angry, looked less like a natural phenomenon and more like a deliberate signal. Behind closed doors, 3 main theories began to dominate the discussions. The first, known as the lighthouse theory, suggested that 3 Atlas wasn't meant for us at all. Instead, it could be an ancient signal, switched on to warn about something else. Maybe a hazardous region of space ahead, or a hidden cosmic threat we cannot yet see. In this idea, the red light isn't a message to Earth, but a universal warning beacon, flashing out into the darkness. The second, far more unsettling idea became known as the Harbinger theory. It proposed that the red glow was not a signal, but a sign that the object's true purpose had begun. The release of microscopic, self-replicating machines designed to alter planets, changing atmospheres, reshaping ecosystems, and preparing worlds for future colonization. In this view, the light wasn't just a glow, it was the color of transformation, the beginning of planetary change. The final and most disturbing idea was called the litmus test theory. According to this, everything we had observed, the disguise, the shifting colors, the pulsing signals, wasn't the goal at all. It was a test. The object was watching us, studying how humanity responds, whether we panic, prepare for conflict, attempt communication, or simply watch and wait in fear. It wasn't here to invade or to build a home. Instead, it seemed to exist for one purpose: to observe us, to measure us, to judge us like creatures in an experiment faced with something far beyond their understanding. And the most unsettling possibility was that if this was true, then somewhere, right now, someone or something was watching closely, studying every action we took, recording our responses to the impossible. The deeper scientists looked into the phenomenon they called the crimson heartbeat, the stranger it became. At first, the steady 84.6-second pulse appeared to be nothing more than a simple on and off signal, a cosmic blink repeating with perfect regularity. But hidden within each flash were rapid, intricate variations, countless subtle fluctuations that appeared to carry densely layered information. It was like hearing a single musical note only to discover entire symphonies, conversations, and libraries of sound woven into its echoes. That was the challenge facing experts at the NSA and specialized private code-breaking groups. Every tiny shift had structure and purpose, as though the light itself was built to transmit a message across the cosmos. Yet every attempt to interpret it ended the same way. The meaning dissolved into something no human system could decode. The language wasn't based on letters, binary digits, or even mathematics as we know it. It was built on principles of physics far beyond our comprehension. Some researchers compared it to staring at an alien operating system. We could tell there was a message, and we could see it followed a logic, but the key to understanding it remained completely out of reach. The realization was deeply unsettling. This wasn't random noise or even a casual attempt at communication. It was a deliberate signal waiting for the right receiver to decode it. And perhaps that receiver wasn't even human. While the public continued to believe that 3E Atlas was merely a comet passing through the solar system, a covert organization known as Project Icarus was tirelessly monitoring every pulse of light, every subtle course correction, and every anomaly the object exhibited. For the scientists, intelligence analysts, and military personnel involved, this was no longer just an astronomical discovery. It had become a matter of defense, a national security issue on a scale far beyond anything current technology could manage. Project Icarus deployed the most powerful tools available: massive radio dishes, advanced space-based sensors, and classified satellite networks, all focused on understanding the visitor. What they uncovered only deepened their concern. The object, a tapered structure over 2 miles in length, wasn't static. Its shape shifted in radar scans, sometimes sharp and defined, sometimes blurred and indistinct, and as though its surface could actively control how it interacted with energy. Even more alarming, its radar signature bore a striking resemblance to that of advanced stealth aircraft. At times, it vanished completely, absorbing signals as if it were cloaked. At other times, it flared so brightly it overwhelmed detection systems. Space Force analysts concluded that this wasn't random behavior. The object was choosing when to be visible and when to disappear. In any military scenario, that is one of the most dangerous capabilities imaginable. But the most undeniable proof that 3A Atlas was under intelligent control wasn't in its light or its radio patterns. It was in how it interacted with gravity. As it passed Mars, its trajectory should have shifted slightly under the planet's gravitational pull, a movement scientists had calculated with precision. Yet the change never occurred. It was as if Mars didn't exist. This enormous object, traveling at tremendous speed, simply ignored one of the fundamental forces of the universe. Only something engineered could do that. It had to possess some kind of technology, an engine or system capable of nullifying gravity itself. At that moment, it became clear that this was no comet. Humanity was watching a vessel, a machine, or something even more extraordinary. It wasn't drifting through space by chance. It was navigating with purpose. For those working within Project Icarus, the revelation was humbling and frightening. Humanity's rockets, once symbols of our greatest achievements, now seemed primitive and insignificant, like stone spears thrown into the void, while this thing moved effortlessly through barriers we can't even perceive. It wasn't just breaking the known laws of physics, it was demonstrating superiority in the most profound way possible. delivering a message not through words, but through its ability to defy gravity itself. As more signs pointed to the fact that 3E Atlas wasn't moving naturally, the conversation shifted to a deeper question. Why was it here? Why now? And why in this particular way? Three unsettling theories began to dominate the discussion. The first, known as the lighthouse theory, suggested that the red light wasn't directed at humanity at all. Instead, it might be a signal to the wider galaxy, a warning that this region of space is dangerous, or that something far larger and more threatening is approaching, something we cannot yet detect. The second, far more alarming theory was called the Harbinger idea. According to this, the sudden change in color was the beginning of a process, a sign that the object was releasing microscopic agents capable of altering atmospheres, water, or even living organisms. These changes would slowly reshape planets like Earth, preparing them for eventual use or occupation by something else. But the most unsettling theory of all was the litmus test. In this view, nothing we observed, not the comet-like disguise, the abrupt transformations, or even the pulsing rhythm, was intended as a message. It was an examination. The object was watching humanity's reaction to the unknown. Would we lash out in fear, attempt peaceful contact, collapse under the weight of uncertainty? If this was truly a test, then someone was observing us already, and the experiment was underway. The most disturbing possibility was that we were never meant to pass, only to be studied. As the object continued to send out its steady pulse, some scientists proposed an even stranger possibility. Maybe it wasn't broadcasting anything outward at all. Maybe it was collecting data. A group of code analysts noticed that the timing of the beats shifted slightly depending on which instruments were used to observe them, as if the object were analyzing its observers in return. It was like holding up a mirror that didn't just reflect an image, but changed the reflection based on who was looking into it. The red light seemed to behave this way, suggesting it was far more than a simple signal. It appeared to be a two-way link, a bridge between our instruments and whatever advanced structure lay within the object. Quiet rumors began to circulate behind closed doors. Perhaps 3E Atlas wasn't trying to communicate with us at all. Maybe it was studying us instead, collecting details about our technology, observing our methods, measuring our curiosity, and, most unsettling of all, assessing how much we were capable of understanding. While scientists debated whether the light was a message or merely a reflection, the military had no room for uncertainty. To them, a massive object that ignored gravity and emitted strange signals wasn't just a puzzle, it was a potential threat, and threats demanded constant attention. Inside the Pentagon, Project Icarus expanded rapidly. New teams were assembled, bringing together intelligence operatives, astrophysicists, and even behavioral experts to study how the revelation might affect human society. High-powered satellites were quietly repositioned to track the object, and ground-based radar systems were ordered to operate without pause. The clearest sign of how seriously the situation was being taken wasn't in leaked documents or encrypted memos. It was in the sudden silence. NASA's public briefings grew vague and infrequent. Information once shared openly with astronomers worldwide was now locked behind layers of digital security. It became clear that the major space agencies and governments had reached a silent understanding. Whatever 3E Atlas was, it was too significant and too dangerous for the public to know everything. Whatever 3A Atlas truly was, humanity was completely unprepared to confront it directly, yet the decision to keep its existence and behavior secret only fueled curiosity and fear. The silence from officials made the unknown feel even more menacing. If the pulsing red light was unsettling, what followed was far worse. As the object continued its journey deeper into the solar system, scientists recalculated its trajectory over and over, thousands of times a day, trying to predict its next move and match those predictions with reality. But slowly, the predictions stopped matching. The object no longer behaved according to the fundamental laws that govern celestial bodies. It passed Mars without reacting to its gravity. It swept past the sun with almost no alteration in its path. And in one observation so unbelievable it was initially concealed, the object appeared to change its speed mid-flight, as if it were deliberately adjusting its course to counter Jupiter's gravitational pull. No natural object could perform such controlled maneuvers, but for a probe or vessel under intelligent guidance, it made perfect sense. This discovery shook the foundation of science itself. Gravity isn't just a rule. It's the principle on which all physical understanding is built. Watching it ignored felt like witnessing the universe rewrite its own laws before our eyes. If this thing could defy gravity, what else might it be capable of? Theories multiplied as quickly as the fear. Some speculated that 3i Atlas was a kind of galactic alarm system, activating only when a significant cosmic danger approached. Others believed it was more like a seed carrier, a machine designed to scatter the building blocks of life across planets, now awakened because Earth had drifted close enough to its reach. But the most unsettling idea was also the simplest, that all of this was a test. The disguise, the signal, the red light, none of it was meant to communicate. It was meant to observe. Every telescope pointed at it, every algorithm decoding its patterns, every headline written about it. All of it became part of the experiment. Humanity wasn't the observer anymore. Humanity was the subject, being watched and studied as part of someone else's design. If the red light was a question, then our reactions, fear, speculation, attempts to understand, or even silence, could already be serving as the answer, and that answer might be the deciding factor in what comes next. Scientists are used to randomness in space, but randomness almost never repeats itself in a clear pattern. As weeks passed, researchers noticed something unsettling. The red pulses from 3i Atlas often intensified precisely when Earth, Mars, and the Sun aligned in unusual ways. At first, it was dismissed as coincidence, but deeper analysis showed the odds of it happening by chance were almost non-existent. It was as if the object not only knew the planet's positions, but was actively responding to the predictable rhythm of the solar system. Some scientists even suggested it wasn't just aligning with planetary motion, it was synchronizing with us. The timing of its pulses began to mirror ancient star patterns, the same ones humans once recorded at sites like Stonehenge. Those monuments were built to track the heavens. Could this mean the visitor wasn't new at all, but had been here before, silently observing and waiting until the right moment to reveal itself? That possibility made researchers deeply uneasy, because if true, the red light wasn't simply a reaction, and it was a deliberate act. Project Icarus, equipped with some of the most advanced radar and imaging tools on Earth, continued to watch. A disturbing detail soon emerged. The shape of 3i Atlas was not fixed. At times it appeared jagged and fragmented, like a shattered shard of glass drifting through space. At other moments, it shifted into precise geometric forms, shapes no natural object should ever take. Brief triangular patterns would flash and vanish. Smooth ridges formed in ways that seemed deliberate rather than random. Some high-resolution images even revealed hints of an internal grid-like structure, as if the object were hollow or engineered from within. For researchers, this was the breaking point. The evidence was undeniable. Rocks don't change shape. Ice doesn't form perfect geometry on its own. Only machines do that. Yet even calling it a machine didn't feel entirely accurate, because its form didn't just defy nature. It appeared to change depending on who was observing it. Different instruments recorded different shapes, almost as if the object was adapting its appearance based on the observer. This wasn't just advanced technology, it was deliberate concealment, a level of deception designed to keep its true nature hidden. Then, something unexpected happened. While monitoring signals with ground stations in California and Australia, researchers detected something strange, a signal coming back. But it wasn't coming from the object itself. Instead, it originated from the empty region of space between Earth and Mars, a place where nothing should exist. The faint echo perfectly mirrored the red pulse, as if the message were being reflected back from nowhere. At first, scientists dismissed it as interference, but repeated checks confirmed it was real. It was as if something invisible was reflecting the signal back toward us, bouncing it through the solar system as part of some larger experiment. Could there be another hidden object trailing the main one, concealed beyond the reach of our instruments? Or was space itself being manipulated, bent and shaped into a relay by technology far beyond our comprehension? Either possibility was unsettling, because it meant we weren't just observing 3i Atlas. We were already part of its network, caught in a system of communication we didn't understand. It felt like a conversation in which humanity wasn't speaking, only being spoken about, and the final discovery before the data abruptly stopped was the most disturbing of all. Analysis of the red light revealed it wasn't only emitting visible wavelengths, it also carried subtle frequency shifts identical to those found in human brain activity. When scientists exposed volunteers to recorded pulses in controlled experiments, the results were impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Their brain patterns began syncing with the signal's rhythm. Participants reported vivid, unsettling dreams, an intense sense of being observed observed, and in one case, a vision of a crimson sky with something immense looming overhead. It appeared the object wasn't merely emitting light, and it was influencing the minds of those studying it, planting thoughts and impressions that didn't belong to them. Was this deliberate, an attempt to communicate directly without language, mind to mind? Or was it something darker, an intrusion into human consciousness itself? Either way, one thing became undeniable. The red glow was no longer just out there. It was beginning to exist within us. What began as the discovery of a comet, a simple rock, an ice fragment from another star system, had transformed into something far more profound. With every pulse, every impossible reading, every crimson heartbeat echoing across the void, 3i Atlas shattered everything we thought we knew. This was no comet, and it wasn't simply drifting through space without consequence. It was something alive with intent, a presence capable of defying gravity, bending the laws of physics, and perhaps even touching our thoughts. And now, in the silence that follows, one truth is unmistakable. If it had wanted to stay hidden, it easily could have. It could have slipped past our instruments, vanished into the darkness, and left no trace. But instead, it chose to reveal itself. It chose to glow, to pulse, to confront us with a signal too complex to decipher, and a presence too immense to ignore. None of this was accidental. It was deliberate. The question is no longer about what 3 Atlas is. The real question is why it chose us, and why now? Was it meant as a warning, a beginning, or a test? Are we witnessing the first stage of some ancient cosmic ritual? Or are we under observation, every reaction carefully studied by an intelligence far beyond our own? Perhaps the red light was never meant for the galaxy at all. Perhaps it was always meant for humanity. The James Webb Telescope didn't just witness a comet turning red. It recorded the moment something far greater made itself known. The silence that follows reminds us that we are not alone, that the cosmos is watching, and that something vast and patient may be waiting for our reply. 3i Atlas wasn't just a visitor passing through, it wanted to be seen, and now that it has our full attention, the real story might only be beginning.